A little over 6 years ago, I got an invitation to take a 5-day desert vacation where I would sleep in tents, stand in line with thousands of people, and use squatty potties. This wasn't Coachella, it wasn't Burning Man either. And my first response was, oh, hell no, because I was 8 months pregnant. And I don't like people that much, especially not when I'm 8 months pregnant. And the idea of living with thousands of strangers in the desert didn't appeal to me. But I said yes, because this was the trip of a lifetime. This was Hajj. Now, Hajj is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. It's a pilgrimage that thousands, millions of people take every year. They save up their entire lives to go. It's kind of like if you complete Hajj, you've completed 20% of your religion. And in 2012, my husband and I were 2 of those people. Now, I had serious imposter syndrome going into Hajj. I've always been a very spiritual person, but I kind of color outside the lines a little bit. I pray every day, 5 times a day, sometimes more on a particularly rough day, but I curse a lot. The F-bomb is my favorite. I like to listen to the Quran at home with my children, but on the way to work, I listen to Prince and trap music. I wear the khimar every single day, but I have been known to go out in sequin leggings and thigh-high boots. I am a bit of a spiritual anomaly, and I wasn't sure that Hajj was the right place for me. But I had been dreaming about Hajj for a long time. It all started in Miss Atkins' 3rd grade social studies class. We were doing a unit on world religions, and she showed us this picture of what looked like thousands of people. It was the most number of people I had ever seen in one photograph. They were all dressed in white, and they were circling this little black box. She told us it was the Kaaba, and this was Saudi Arabia, and these were Muslims, and they were making Hajj. And right then and there, I made it my mission. I said, one day, Miss Atkins, I'm going to make Hajj. She said, Angelica, didn't you just say you got baptized this year? You have to be Muslim to make Hajj. And I figured my strict Christian mother and father wouldn't let me attend, so I set my sights on more attainable pursuits, like winning the 3rd grade spelling bee and convincing Mario Lumpkins that he was indeed in love with me. But dreams of Hajj resurfaced when I was a sophomore in college. I had become disenchanted with the church that I had grown up in, and I happened upon that same picture that Miss Atkins had shown us in our 3rd grade class. And I set out to understand the wonders of Islam. I was going to prove this religion wrong. And what I found was a practicality, a simplicity, and an elegance that stole my heart. And at the age of 23, 4 years after I set off on my spiritual quest, I found myself kneeling in front of a Senegalese imam in a Northwest Detroit Cape Cod-style bungalow, saying the Shahada, the Muslim Declaration of Faith. It was 6 years later that I met my husband. Now, unlike every other Muslim woman I knew at the time, I was not trying to get married. I wanted to travel the world, see the sights, teach dance. I didn't want to be tied down. But my friend Fardos said, Angelica, you need to get married. Look, my husband has a friend. He's really tall. He's cute. He's smart. You'll love him. So she set me up on a blind date at her house. I showed up 4 hours late for the date. He showed up 5 hours late. And she was right. He was everything that she said he was. He was smart. He was funny. He was engaging, handsome. But I'm 5'11", and he's 5'6". He wasn't exactly tall, but what Fardos didn't know is that I loves me a bite-sized man. It was like a fun-sized Snickers, just enough chocolate. And we got married 6 weeks after we met. Children soon followed, and he helped me make good on my single woman's promise to myself when he came home one day and said, babe, I got a job teaching English in Saudi Arabia. We're moving to Jeddah. Now, Jeddah is the jewel of the Red Sea. It's kind of like a Muslim New York City, and it's only 45 minutes away from Mecca. My dream of Hajj was now closer than ever. But there was the imposter syndrome again. You see, I'm the only Muslim in my family. And on Hajj, the men and the women are in separate tents. So I couldn't be with my husband. I would be with dozens of strange Muslim women. And I was afraid that I was going to mess up their Hajj experience. Because I'm kind of wayward, very irreverent, almost always inappropriate. Like the first time I went to a Western-style grocery store in Jeddah, I was super excited. It wasn't like the normal farmer's market that we were going to. This place had Cheerios, they had Pepsi, they had Cheez-Its, and it was all in Arabic. It was so cool. I was dressed in a black abaya, the long flowing gown. I had a black face veil over my face. I was really trying to blend in. But the part that I couldn't turn off was my internal jukebox. See, it's a little raunchy, and it plays music in my head any time, and sometimes the music that's selected is almost always inappropriate, and it was really hot that day. So I'm walking with my stroller, and I'm going through the store, looking at all the sights, and it's getting hot in here, so take off all your clothes. I am getting so hot, I want to take my clothes off, get a little bit of I mean, my head is back, my eyes are closed, and by the time I get to the second, I open my eyes, and every other person in the store is looking at me. And they're all men, because men do the majority of the shopping in Saudi Arabia. And I was afraid that just like I ruined their shopping experience, I was going to ruin Hajj for some poor, unknowing woman. But when we got to the tents, I realized that it really wasn't a tent. It was these multi-roomed, carpeted, air-conditioned deals, and the women inside were a different mix than I had expected. There was the blonde-haired, blue-eyed Mexican woman who had brought her nursing baby, and she would whip her boob out to feed him in front of all of the other women, and they were all aghast, and I was secretly laughing. There was the British Algerian woman who was very prim and proper. I nicknamed her the Muslim hyacinth bouquet. There was the Irish woman with pink and blue cornrows and shaved sides. She was a white girl, but she had a big booty, and she taught us all how to twerk. There was the Somali contingent who wore triple black veils and gloves and bloomers and socks, but sat in circles and told ridiculously dirty jokes. They were nothing like what I imagined them to be, but I wondered would they think I was cool? Were they cool? How was this 5 days gonna go? The day after we got to Hajj is the day of Arafat. Now, the day of Arafat is the most important religious ritual in Hajj. You spend the entire day praying, engaging in these fervent acts of worship. But I had a secret. See, I knew just enough Arabic to make my 5 daily prayers, but I didn't have any extra credit prayers in my pocket. I knew one dua, one short prayer, and I sat in a corner by myself just reciting it over and over and over again. The teacher showed up, like they do every time we have Hajj, and she said, okay, ladies, I'm going to teach you the very prayer that the Prophet Muhammad would make on this day. This is the most important prayer that you can make. So I got out my notebook and my pen. I was ready. No more kindergarten for me. I'm ready to move up to high school Arabic. And as she started talking, she began reciting the exact same prayer that I had been saying all day. I was feeling like maybe I wasn't an imposter after all. And the women in the group, they were cool. They were kind of growing on me, especially when we went out to make our rounds. The men and the women are separated sometimes, even when we're in the crowds. And Muslim Hyacinth, she was like a linebacker in the crowds. She told all of the women, protect the belly. When a man tried to push me out of my seat on the train, she clotheslined him. It was a beautiful thing to see. So on the third day of Hajj, when we all sat down to have breakfast, I decided to take out a jar of jam. Now, on Hajj, we eat traditional Saudi food. We have a breakfast of fool, which is fava beans mixed with olive oil and spices. It's really delicious. And they serve it with a flatbread called tamiz. Now, normally, this would be a great breakfast, but there were squatty potties, and I was pregnant, and it was beans and bread. It wasn't exactly a good mix for my digestive system. So I took out my jar of Bonne Maman all-fruit preserves and tried to slide a little bit on my bread so that nobody would see. I told you I don't like people that much. But the Moroccan woman next to me said, "Sister Angelica, can I have a scoop?" I figured this is Hajj, so I let her have some. And just as I feared, the woman next to her asked for some, and the woman next to her, and the woman next to her, and I watched my jar of jam make its way around a circle of 3 dozen women. But something interesting happened. As each woman took a scoop of jam, she shared her mother or her grandmother's recipe. For the women who had come from cultures that they didn't eat jam for breakfast, they said, dessert for breakfast? I can get down with that. And just like I feared, by the time the jar made its way back around to me, it was completely empty. But my heart was full. On the last day of Hajj, we make a rite called Tawaf al-Wada, the farewell tawaf. It's 7 circumambulations around that black box that I had seen in Miss Atkins' 3rd grade class. By this time, pregnancy had gotten the best of me. My feet were swollen. My head was achy. I was dehydrated. And as I walked into the crowd, the sheer number of people lifted me up. I couldn't even feel my feet on the ground. And I did the worst possible thing you can do when you're in a crowd. I looked around at all of the people, and I began to hyperventilate. And my blonde-haired, blue-eyed, Mexican hippie mama friend said, "Angelica, close your eyes and just breathe." And as I did, I could feel a wash of cool air flow over me, and it was just enough for me to finish making those 7 rounds. I had to walk back to the bus. It was about 2.5 kilometers. I was dragging my pregnant belly. I'd sent my husband ahead. I was certain that the bus had left me and had already gone back to Jeddah. But when I got on the bus, I saw that Hyacinth was sitting there, saving a seat for me, just like she had done on the train. We went back home and picked up our children, and I spent the next few days eating fried chicken, ice cream, cookies, all of the things that a pregnant woman craves when she's on Hajj. And I reflected. I had gone to Hajj as a wayward, incomplete Muslim. And I came back from Hajj a wayward, incomplete Muslim. Because Hajj is not about being in competition with the millions of other people who are there. Hajj was about refining and becoming a more complete version of myself. It made me stop and think about the stereotypes that I had foisted upon my Hajj sisters in the tent, the same type of stereotypes that I get upset when people lob at me. My daughter was born 6 weeks later, a miraculous Saudi home birth. That's a story for another time. And now, when she doesn't want to pray, she gets to tease her brothers and sisters and say, "Well, I've already made 20% of my religion because I did Hajj in mommy's belly." And when she turned 6 this December, I didn't even get a chance to post her picture on Facebook because when I opened my Facebook page, one of my Hajj sisters had already put her up on the page. We're all still very close. We trade stories, recipes, pictures of our babies. Those ladies from the tent, they're no longer strangers. They're my sisters.